The IHSA responded and basically said, sorry, we're in an untenable position. I mean, I'd like to see school districts take a stand and remove themselves from IHSA membership.
That's Republican State Representative Regan Deering talking with my colleague Katrina Barker about the Illinois High School Association, essentially saying that they're continuing forward with their policies concerning transgender athletes. This comes after weeks of Republicans having asked the Illinois High School Association what they're going to do about Donald Trump's executive order. And the letter came several weeks after the fact. So go to thecentersquare.com where you'll see this story. IHSA asked about aligning sports policy with Trump gender-specific sports. And this was earlier this month when the Republicans sent that letter to the IHSA. And actually, I think it was late March when they sent that letter. But ultimately, we finally, while I was off last week, had the IHSA respond. And you can actually see that response if you go to the IHSA's website and just read from that response here. Because listen, the Republicans, when they ask the questions, the letter just simply asked about how they're going to respond to the Trump executive order, and the IHSA this statement last week while I was taking a week off, and they said that they respond to lawmakers after receiving a letter from the Republican caucus of both House and clarifying the president's executive order regarding transgender participation in high school sports in Illinois. There's a growing narrative seeking to politicize the IHSA's response. However, as it plainly explains in the copy of the letter provided below, the IHSA is seeking clarity on conflicting state and federal law so that we can remain in compliance. So again, the letter came March 17th. So a month after the fact, the IHSA responds. They say that a voluntary private not-for-profit unincorporated association. So the IHSA is not a government organization. It's a private organization, not-for-profit. Membership, which is comprised of 809 high schools in Illinois. The IHSA says they receive no state or federal funding. Initially, it should be noted that the policy in question applies only to state series competitions sponsored by the IHSA. They go on to talk about assuming for the purpose of this discussion, the executive order in question represents an authorized exercise of presidential authority that accurately reflects federal law. The inquiry is not ended. The Illinois Attorney General and more recently, the Illinois Department of Human Rights have asserted the IHSA and the Illinois Human Rights Act requires the transgender athletes be permitted to participate in events and programs aligning with the gender which they identify. As a result, foregoing compliance with the executive order could place the IHSA out of compliance with the Illinois Human Rights Act and vice versa. The IHSA simply desires to comply with the law and take no position on which of the foregoing is correct or whether there can be an alignment between claimed federal and state law. Given the conflict described above, however, we are left in an untenable situation, the IHSA says. We therefore urge state officials, including the legislature, to govern the governor and attorney general work together with federal authorities to provide clarity for this issue. So you've got the IHSA saying they're in an untenable situation, and they see some conflict here with the state law and the federal law, and the state's Human Rights Act that allows for gender identity to be protected. So you've also got the Illinois House Minority Leader, Toni McCombie. She put out a statement essentially saying that the IHSA has once again chosen to deflect over this issue, saying that it was ambiguous, and saying that the response is not just late, it's weak, saying it's not our problem, doesn't serve the students of the state, it's not leadership, it's a cop-out, McCombie said. She further said this is not about politics, but student safety, and delaying clarity on this issue only prolongs the problem. McCombie said if state law contradicts federal law, then the path forward is to work in good faith to resolve that conflict, not hide from it, and risk losing federal dollars. Now, you got to keep in mind, the Trump administration has sued the state of Maine over this issue because Maine is refusing to comply with Trump's executive order. But you've also, got this issue, spreading here in Illinois where Obviously, Republicans have a particular perspective. Democrats have a particular perspective, and Regan Deering, a Republican from the Decatur area, she has House Bill 1117 seeking to ban biological males from participating in female sports. She criticized IHSA, saying that it's taking a stance that fails to uphold fairness for women. The IHSA emphasized that it's a private, not-for-profit organization, doesn't receive state or federal dollars. Deering, she said that that doesn't necessarily pass the sniff test.
I picked up the phone and called my own superintendent, and he was shocked because they have put out policy to the school districts that says, should you receive a request for a transgender athlete to compete in the sport of their identity as opposed to their biological sex, they have to provide multiple documents to the IHSA, and they make the determination.
So Deering continued in the conversation to talk about the response, and she said that Republicans are frustrated with the Illinois High School Association's position on this.
I mean, I have seen all over social media constituents of mine, citizens all across the state of Illinois that, are absolutely in an outrage about their stance here.
And what happens next, right? Obviously, the IHSA is asking for some cooperation to find clarity on all of this. But is that something that's going to happen anytime soon? In the meantime, the policy is still in place. And while you have those who support transgender athletes competing in sports events for the gender of which they were not born, saying that there's only a small number of instances of this happening. You've got those who oppose the idea, saying even if it's just one, it's too much because there's safety concerns and such. Deering says the next steps may have to be some schools to take a stance.
I mean, I'd like to see school districts take a stand and remove themselves from IHSA membership.
Is that going to happen anytime soon? And what kind of numbers are we going to talk about as far as how many schools are going to do that? Who knows? But clearly it's an ongoing issue that we'll be watching at the Illinois State House and beyond. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning. Get the podcast where you get podcasts and wake up with us right here with Illinois in Focus Daily.